Hi there. This is a new idea in videos for me. Hopefully it'll work out. What I want to talk about today is composition. As a result, I have my laptop here in front of me, which is just below your line of sight, and therefore I can look at the images that I want to look at. Now, among others, Henri Cartier-Bresson is famous for having said on many occasions that the success of his images were all about geometry. And part of that geometry is the way of dividing up any frame into what's called an armature. Now, I'm not an art teacher, nor am I an art student beyond my own delving into the subject. So if I make any errors with any of the nomenclature or anything as I go through this, please forgive me. Now, I'm going to start off with this image. Now, this is a simple image of a teacher in his classroom. When I took this particular image on film many years ago, I was inspired by the work of Arnold Newman. Arnold Newman, of course, did what he called environmental portraits. So you put the person in their environment so you could identify what they were. But let's get away from that for a minute and look at the geometry of it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is draw a diagonal, as you can see, a diagonal. Putting in the second diagonal, notice that it intersects his face. Now I'm putting in something very important, something called a reciprocal. Now, here's the thing about a reciprocal. You notice the reciprocal says that it's at 90 degrees. It's a right angle. It is not to the middle of the frame. It is 90 degrees. So when I fill in the rest of the reciprocals, as you can see here, I now have something that may show you some ways in which lines behave in the frame. But now, watch what happens when I put in the intersecting horizontal and vertical lines. See that? Intersecting horizontal and verticals. Once I put in all four of them, what I end up with is something that is basically called a complete armature. Notice that those lines, although they do not follow the rule of thirds, they do now delineate certain horizontals and certain verticals. And notice that the convergence of many lines is at or near the face of the man in the picture. Now, granted, this is not a very precise application of this particular way of dividing up an image. But it can be applied to many images. If you were to look online, you will find examples of videos where they apply this to the images of Henri Cartier-Bresson, and you can see how he used these diagonals and reciprocals so much in his images. This next picture is the arm of an old phonograph. I just liked the image. It's not super sharp. Notice that the actual pickup head with the needle is quite sharp, but the rest is quite out of focus. Now, watch what happens when I put in the diagonals and one reciprocal. Notice how the image does seem to somewhat conform to that little piece of geometry. Here is another image of a poor little mourning dove sitting out in the snow. When I shot the image, I framed it to put him down in that lower corner. But when I started looking at the geometry of the image, you'll notice that it works out quite well. The bird is roughly on a diagonal. The bird's face is very close to those intersections. Now that is how this works to make for an image that hopefully will be more pleasant looking. The next couple of images just show how this transitions into the rule of thirds. You notice in my next image, I have divided only the diagonals, and then I have put in the rule of third lines. No, this is not a proper armature, but notice how it fits the image. And that's the reason why we commonly used rule of thirds. In the next image, you'll see the viewfinder of the camera that I usually use for video. Notice that on that screen, on that video screen, we have a rule of thirds grid drawn on it. If I put in the diagonals, you can see how they fit onto that particular rule of thirds grid. Overall, this idea of rule of thirds is really just a simplification, if you like, of this idea of an armature. Because the rule of thirds doesn't necessarily conform to the strictness of the reciprocals. All it does is basically move through it. They intersect in the diagonals so that you do get that pleasantly balanced image. Now, this is just a very quick run through of some of the principles involved in composition. As I said, I am not an art teacher. I am not a formal artist. I have no formal training. This is all information that you yourself can find here on YouTube and other locations on the internet if you want to go out and look. So, if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you want to see more of my videos, which are now going to concentrate far more on composition, then by all means subscribe to my channel. And if you think anyone else is going to get anything useful from this, be sure to share it. Bye for now. Hi there. I'd just like to point out that the video you just watched is just about basically one aspect, one way of helping to compose an image. Remember that there aren't any rules really. These are just guidelines. These are just things that people have discovered that make an image pleasant looking. So remember, this is just one aspect. This is not meant to be all-inclusive. And if you want to see more, just stay tuned to this channel. Bye for now.